Hi, I'm Erica Shannon, and I know this is a little bit late, but I have my authentic audience proposal to discuss with you and to share with you. I'm simply doing a screencast, which we have used in the past in the classroom, and it's something that the students feel comfortable using, creating it for themselves as well as viewing when we do it in the classroom. So I'll probably continue using screencasting as an app or an extension, I should say, within the classroom for normal. Everyday assignments. However, there are two formats that I have been fiddling around with, and hopefully this summer we'll be able to submit and solidify that would bring together a more authentic audience for participation by the students in the classroom, where they're able to use technology and also bridge the gap with the community as well as with other students throughout the country. The first proposal, option number one, is a question and answer blog in which students can connect with the community. I know I recently moved back a couple years ago into Elkhart from Michigan, where I had been living and teaching for the past 15 years. And it was a little difficult for me to find members of the community and parts of the community that could provide answers to questions that I had. When I had a question about water and what kind of water we had when we bought a new house, I didn't know who necessarily to go to seek out that answer. Now, my questions will be a little bit different than what the students have, but what I am envisioning is that they are able to create a blog to start with in which they are going to be able to share with each other questions, daily questions that they come up with that pertain to science. We're going to start out with science in general and maybe work our way into life science since it will be a biology classroom. Oftentimes, students are afraid to even begin the questioning process when it comes to investigations. They are afraid a question's too simple or too silly, or there's already an answer, or there's not an answer, or they have to answer it. So this is going to be sort of a free-floating sort of discussion to start off with, and what kind of answers can we come up with? We'll use Padlets, for example, to sort of do some brainstorming to give people ideas of questions that they could include. But once we get the hang of what types of questions would be good to investigate, we can start posting them on a community blog site. Now, my idea is that I can help the students then bridge gaps between finding the answers to the questions that they propose and people or resources in the community that might be able to support it. I will do what I can, and if I will encourage students to, if they know someone that works in an industry that would be able to help out or help us find an answer, they can use their connections, or I will help research people that can answer some of these questions, and I will work with them and invite them to our blog to personally answer the questions on the blog. For example, it's supposed to storm tonight. It's supposed to be a pretty bad storm. And a question that might arise is, why is this one going to be bad when it was so nice and warm out earlier today? How do the weather forecasters, or why do the weather forecasters think it's going to be a bad storm? If that sort of question is proposed, then maybe I can guide over to WNDU and reach out to them to see if they would be willing to post an answer on our blog site. And so that way we can have feedback back and forth with students and with community members. So that is one authentic experience that I am tinkering around with. I like the idea of a blog to start with, rather than just a social media site. Blogs, they are going to have to maybe write out a little bit more. It would help them a little bit more with their writing skills and honing that in. Also, we might continue it on so they can start doing research themselves on some of the questions. And so that format with the blog rather than just a social media site might be a little bit easier and more conducive to that. It would be nice too to then follow up with creating podcasts once an answer is discovered or research is discovered for these questions, in which the students can then teach each other. And we can sort of make an archive, and that we can use that throughout the years. If a similar question arises one of the following years, students can go back to these past podcasts and see if there's a podcast that matches up. The second option that I was thinking with is collaboration with other schools. Since I came from Michigan, there was a educational authority called Wayne Risa that I worked with and made a few connections and a few teachers in the area, and I still collaborate. I'm also involved in different professional networks through Facebook, Twitter, etc. And we are often collaborating within our classrooms, and many of the teachers are willing to work together on different labs and communicate results because we're sort of all in this how do we provide the most authentic experience for our students position. So if we can coincide labs in my classroom with labs going on in another classroom, especially in a different part of the country, first of all, students will see that they're not alone. It's not just something that happens at their school. It's not just an assignment. And it might form a bigger connection because they're seeing that, oh, maybe it's relevant to a certain area for a certain reason. I'm thinking, especially with ecology and looking at some of the climate issues, some of the species variations, habitat variations, and how those might change as part of the lab experience themselves that we might investigate, because the results that we have might be different than the results that a metro area, downtown Detroit, might have when it comes to looking at like acid rain composition, for instance. But what we could do is do data collection on various topics and compare the results and start up a dialogue. Why at this school or within this classroom would they be finding this information, whereas we found different information? That would be a broad idea. We could also just discuss and have student individual groups discuss with one another individual results and see if there's any error that might have arisen, or help each other out on just lab formatting or what should be included in discussions, et cetera, et cetera. We'd probably use video conferencing within that, as well as different Google Docs that they can write on collaboratively. But I think the video conferencing, so they can do face-to-face communication, is very important to include with that. In addition, there are already established research programs going on in which students can contribute data. NASA, NOAA, GLOBE are three such programs. Again, I'm focusing on the ecology aspect because that's what we'll be doing in the fall. And so that's a way that the students can actually jump in actual experiments and providing data and submitting data. It's collected from across the country and in some cases across the globe. And we are able to use other classrooms' data and discover trends in it. And first of all, that will go along with our science process skills and our objectives, but it'll also provide the authentic science investigation experiences that the students do need to be able to do. So two different options for authentic experiences. Both of them are being, tinkered with right now. My goal is to push out of just working within the school itself to incorporate A, the community, and B, other schools themselves that are participating in similar lab situations. Thank you.